Good morning, Rob, and welcome to another episode of Laneway Talks. How are you this week and getting closer to Christmas?
I'm doing all right, yeah, surviving the Christmas pandemonium. So, yeah, well, good morning. Thanks for having me once again.
Well, I thought something worth discussing here towards the end of the year. I was going to bring up my 10 favourite all-time tracks, which have meant a lot to me. And, so I'll give you a bit of background on that, and I'll be interested to see what your kind of comment on those are. And what you think of those songs, because we know.
If I know them.
Yeah, well, no, you will. They're all very popular songs. And I think it's worth noting too that Rob's Drum Shed has had an exponential growth in its numbers, and that's really good. Everybody, there seems to be a real interest out there in drumming, which is great. So keep it up. Okay, so Rob, I'm going to start off with, what's my number one favourite track of all time, I think, and which means a lot to me in an historical basis, in a musical basis, in the band and whatever. Might surprise you, but it is Little River Band, Curiosity Killed the Cat.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, a bit of a strange one. Now, you would probably put that in more a pop than classic rock. It's a classic rock song, but it's got a tinge of pop in it. And I thought it meant a lot to me, from way back in the day, and that would have been, mid-70s. It meant a lot to me, or just after mid-70s. And for the very reason that I was, prior to Little River Band, there was Mississippi.
Yes.
So Graham Goble and Beat Birtles. And I was a Mississippi fan, and they had Kings of the World, which was a top 10 hit. And so I was already kind of familiar, but when I saw Little River Band and that track being the first track I saw on Countdown, I found it quite a unique song. I don't know how to explain it, but it had cuts of different styles in it for me at the time, and I think because of Axiom and that being who's the singer there at Glenn Shorrock, and and then Derek Pleachy on drums, and it was a sense in a kind of a super group, and I was very attracted by the song. Of course, when the album came out, that first album, it was a sensational album, and there was some absolute killer cuts on that album. Just sensational songs. The recording of the album, which I think was it Ross Fraser? Anyway, it was in that era. The recording of the album was extremely clean, and I loved at the time that clean sound. Buster Brown were in that clean sound. The recording was very clean. Wasn't a lot of effects in the guitars or anything. It was just very clean. Anyway, that's my number one. I mean, what was your take on Little River Band? I mean, you must know a lot about them because they were huge.
From Adelaide too, which is the origins.
Oh, were they? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, Shorrock.
Oh.
They're Adelaide band. That's where they came from. That's where Mississippi came from.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Well, that's just one in a progression of many, many good bands that came out of Adelaide. It really is Adelaide and Melbourne for Australia. Yeah, but sorry to cut in. Go on.
No. I met Derek when I was working for Sona at Drumworld in the 80s. I think that was towards the end of his tenure with the LIB, but he was a great drummer.
Can you tell me that why now?
He plays for the song.
Yeah, I'm going to say to you, I didn't actually consider him a sensational drummer. He didn't come across to me like that. He was a good drummer. He wasn't sensational. But why did you like him so much? What was, you being a tutor, what did you see?
He plays for the song.
Right.
he's not over the top to the expense of the song. He had the chops and ability when he needed them, and it was very tasteful in what he did. And yeah, I'd love his band players that stick with the band all the way through.
A real rhythm section. They're just the backbone, yeah. I mean, you had Roger McLaughlin at the time, sensational bass player.
More, yeah, Adelaide.
Yeah. Oh, right. Absolutely unbelievable bass player. You had Rick Formosa on guitar. What a guitarist. I mean, take nothing away from, oh, God, now I've forgotten the other second guitarist that came in. Not Pete Birtles, the guy that came in after Rick Formosa left.
Graham?
Not Graham Goebel. No, they were there from the beginning. Anyway, I'll remember it later. And, so you had some real unbelievable players in there, and that rhythm section was so fantastic. Anyway, Curiosity Killed the Cat is a song I can always listen to, and it ramifies 70s for me, but sounds just as good today as it did then. Number 2 for me is Australian Crawl, Beautiful People. Yeah. And I know a lot of people, go in for a lot more of their ballads back then, but Beautiful People at the time was that upbeat, you feel good song. And if you listen to it today, it gives you that same inspirational feel. Good times, hot weather, beach. And so I just connected with it straight away. I did go to Peninsula Grammar, and that's where James went, and Robbo and whatever. And so, they played at our end of year celebrations. I mean, they'd only finished the year before or whatever. So, Beautiful People has a lot of just it comes across to me. It came across to me as an overproduced type song. There was so much in it. There was a lot happening in the song. You go back to Curiosity Killed the Cat, not a lot in the song, essentially, not overproduced, whereas Beautiful People was. But that's, for me, that's what I remember, and I play it today and I can feel upbeat again, and it's fantastic. So that's what it had for me. Of course, what happened after that is just history. The band were huge, Yeah. Number 3, AC/DC.
Woohoo!
Now, You Shook Me All Night Long is the track for me. Although, I loved High Voltage as an album, and I love that song. Just as a quintessential rhythm and blues Australian pub band back then at that first album. But once they got to You Shook Me All Night Long, it was just an unbelievable track, and here he was that Bon had passed away, and how could a band come back so big? And I heard Back in Black and went, this is just out of this world. And just everything about it, the twin guitar that resonates through that kind of album there was just unbelievable. And to this day, that's, for me, he's got to be their best album of all time, Back in Black. And that's, I know it doesn't have Bon Scott in it, but
well, it does.
Right. But I don't know what did that do for you? I mean, and someone was only just telling me, I was at a function in Sydney on Monday night, and someone was talking about Phil Rudd, who was a drummer from some other band, and I think it was the guitarist from Hush, and he was talking about Phil Rudd, that he'd played with him in a band prior to Hush, and what a fantastic drummer he was. Now, once again, I can probably put him in the Derek Polici category.
Another Sona guy too.
well, I think maybe what you use, I'm not a monkey, performing monkey, to do a Neil Peart. But
no, Neil's not a performing monkey.
well, he goes all around those drums and it's unbelievable. But these two guys didn't do that kind of thing, so they didn't stand out as much. But everybody thinks they're great drummers, and that says a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, as I said, with Buster Brown, Phil's performance on Buster Brown, because I love that album, and I loved Phil's playing from then, and then AC/DC when he came in after High Voltage. He's just so solid. His time is so good, and he's so strong. He plays on top of the beat and doesn't speed up, and that's a very difficult thing to do, to hold that tension but not move the tempo. And Phil was just so good, and he could maintain it for like I don't know, 10 minutes. He watched I'm just trying to think of the concert with Bond that was in London, that and they do the Let There Be Rock, and Bond takes off with Angus.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that. Yeah.
And Phil just keeps that tempo pumping, and it would be 10 minutes, and he doesn't shift.
It's funny when you say that about he doesn't speed up. How many times when you were young did you play in a band and you look around and go, who the hell is speeding up? How come this song's faster than usual?
Yeah.
And there's no way of stopping it. Once someone starts, the whole thing starts snowballing, doesn't it?
Yeah, so many. I've analysed that over the years. There's so many different variables in the way that people, guitar players, singers, keyboard players, understand time. How drummers need to really be responsible for that, and that's trying to play metronomic without sounding metronomic. That's the beauty of players like Phil Rudd and Derek Pollicci, and there's a whole host of guys like that. But Australian guys, for me, that they're two kingpins of that. Mark Kennedy. Oh my God. There's another brilliant player like that.
Number four, Skyhooks, Living in the 70s.
And Freddie Strauss. Yeah.
Well, what does Living in the 70s mean for me? Well, what I'd already heard, now here I was, mid-70s, I think it was 74, 75 for Living in the 70s. And I wasn't quite old. I couldn't go to pubs, wasn't old enough. But I'd seen... 74. Yeah, so I'd seen them play at quite a few Saturday afternoon shows, because back in those days, the local town hall would always host either an afternoon show or a nighttime show, and you get 4 or 5 bands. Yeah. And so I'd seen Skyhooks play quite a few times, and the audience reaction to a band that hadn't had an album out was unbelievable. I mean, they were already big prior to that first album coming out. I mean, the band were pretty mega. And so when the album came out, it was just a natural thing to go, wow, I need to listen to it. And when you did listen to it, it was so progressive. Yeah, I mean, that riff-based, I thought he was a really good guitarist. Someone said to me once.
He is a really good guitarist.
Yeah, they said he wasn't that good. And I thought, well, look, I'm not going to argue with you. I thought he was really good because he was very technical.
Yeah, they probably don't know how to play guitar.
Yeah.
Fred's a very good guitar player.
I mean, yes, Freddie was great on drums, but the whole band put together was a living memory. There were so many good times with their songs playing. And so, I had to have it in there. And interestingly, I thought it was one of those songs that would never die, but it kind of has it. There's a big percentage population now don't even know who Skyhooks are or the song Living in the 70s. But for me, it is ingrained in, and it does personify the 70s for me. And, I just love it. I love that album. That first album is just unbelievable.
My first concert I ever went to was
Skyhooks.
Living in the 70s.
Was it?
At Her Majesty's Theatre here in 74, 75.
Yeah.
And I do, as a drummer, I just love Freddie Strauch's playing. I think he's one of the most underrated Australian drummers in a technical sense, because what he's playing, you should try and play any one of those songs. Try to play Carl.
No, mate, they're hard. Look, and I have actually. I did used to play to those songs quite a lot because I liked them. And
we used to do them in my first band.
And they are hard songs to play. Once you do master it, you master it. I must say, I was on fire back in those days.
But
yeah, because, I used to play every day and, it was my life. And they were really hard songs to follow. To follow his drumming, pretty difficult.
Yep, it was. And it swung.
Yeah, absolutely. He was very good. Now, my next track, Yothu Yindi, tribal voice, treaty, tribal voice. Now, I did meet the band at Mushroom back in the day and had lunch with them and whatever, and quite a few of them couldn't speak English, really.
Right.
Unbelievable band live, lovely guys, and a song that talks to, I think, both sides of the country, the voice side and the non-voice side. I think it is what it is, Trudy, and it just resonates for me again as a delve into the Indigenous rock background, and I consider them rock. And so I saw them play many times, because they were on Mushroom, and just unbelievable live. Great band. So Yothu Yindi in there, that song sounds as good today as it did the day it was recorded.
Yeah.
I then move on to Paul Kelly. Now, you've got to have Paul Kelly. I mean, Paul Kelly's doing some Rod Lavers, next year. He's on to his second Rod Laver. So, this guy's no young Jim. He's getting on in life and he's still pulling those huge crowds. So it's a testament to him. I did see him play quite a few times in Paul Kelly and the Dots and was blown away back then. Again, probably 78, 79.
Okay.
Maybe 80, maybe 80. And, has to have a good backdrop too, I thought. They had a big backdrop, but they were just really good. And obviously it just progressed on, and he's such a writer. And there's a lot of storytelling in there, and that's what I like about it.
I just watched the movie that's on Netflix, How to Make Gravy, which is a movie they made about Paul's song, How to Make Gravy.
Oh, yeah.
Christmas song.
Yeah.
And it's a great movie. It's done. Yeah, I love good Aussie movies, and that's a good one. People, check it out if you haven't seen it. How to Make Gravy. That's on Netflix, I think. Yeah, or Foxtel, one of them.
So that's what it meant for me. Again, a real songwriter, storyteller, and has the knack of being able to deliver a song acoustically, and that's a hard thing to do. We have Paul Janoskis from Cattle Truck who can do that. Yep. Paul Kelly brings it to another level. So, that was that. The next one I moved to is Daddy Cool. And
oh yes,
I would have to kind of name Eagle Rock, although there's about two or three back then that I liked just as much. But Eagle Rock is that upbeat, summer song. Let's have fun, and it's just a rhythm and blues track, and it just again resonates as good times. Now, I could have mentioned Mondo Rock in that, or the Mighty Kong, which were Ross Wilson's other bands, and I think just again got sensational songs within their repertoire. But you don't have to say any more about Ross Wilson. This guy has survived 50 years and still playing till today. And
I think Skyhooks, because he produced Living in the 70s.
Yeah,
Ego. It's like Ross's a hidden force in that band, because he was Vegetal Sons, even pre that, it's like Australian music royalty when you talk about
Ross Wilson,
Ross Wilson, Paul Kelly as well,
absolutely,
Skyhook, Red, all those guys,
no doubt. So
so underrated on a global scale, that's okay. We know what we've got. And
well, funny about that, I had a comment on YouTube only about a week ago about Eagle Rocks. We had the video up, and someone in America said, I bought this in the 70s. I've played it till this day, and what an underrated band. And this was someone in the States. So, they did have that. Look, with a lot of these bands, these Aussie bands, could have made it in the States. You've just got to have the commitment to want to go there and live there. And that's a big commitment. And once you've got a family, it's not going to happen. So a lot of them could have done it, but, it's the thing I always say to young bands, if you want to be international, you really do need to go over there. They'll probably say, well, no, that's not the case. King Lizard haven't had to do it, and a few other bands like that.
King
Gizzard, sorry. And, but, you really, to give yourself a much better chance, you've got to go over there and live over there. And you've really got to give it a crack. It's hard, but everything's hard. Nothing's easy. I then move on to Flowers, and not Icehouse, but Flowers.
Yeah,
and
me too.
That first album, I was just blown away by the international quality of the album at the time. And I thought this band are destined to just go overseas. I mean, their sound was so international at the time.
Yeah.
And every song on the album was a killer track. Every song. I remember going down to Target, in Camberwell, which is a suburb here, and Camberwell, of course. And
band houses in Camberwell.
Yeah. So going down to Target in the old car park, and buying the album in Target, and I just thought, my God, this is unbelievable, this record. And it was the technicality of the songs, that the writing of it, and just the international sound. I thought it really suited what was happening at the time internationally. And I think if I listen to that song today, it hasn't lost any of its shine. Some of his other albums have lost a bit of their shine, but that particular album, every track is a killer track.
Yeah.
And I must say, I never ever got to see a Flowers play. I got to see Icehouse play quite a few times, quite a lot, but never Flowers, the original band. No, Keith Welsh in it, too, on bass.
Yeah. I saw him here with Midnight Oil at an Oval at the Adelaide University, and it was like the Oils were just on their way up and didn't stop, and Icehouse were pretty. Yeah, it was that. I think pretty much that tour. I think Flowers, Icehouse, of that album, because I just remember the songs really well. I mean, I just want to say every artist that you've mentioned, other than LRB, the Grouse, the band that I play in currently, we do songs from every one of those bands.
All right. Well, you just mentioning who, Icehouse playing with Midnight Oil or supporting or whatever. It was like me seeing Skyhooks with AC/DC supporting, La-Di-Da's playing, Madder Lake. I mean, 4 or 5 bands on. Or, you were treated to such an orgy of music. It was unbelievable. You don't know how lucky you were.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Chisel were like that here. I saw them so many times when I was a kid.
Oh, you would have in Adelaide, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Well, because they did the same thing. They played all the town halls.
Yeah. Now I move on to Wolfmother.
Yeah.
He got to kind of do it. It was interesting when I was at Mushroom in the 80s, and then I went back in the 2000s, I think, late 2000s, and I went in the office, and Wolfmother were big at the time, and they were listening to it in there.
Yeah.
Of course, they weren't on Mushroom, and that kind of told me how big and good the band were. and it was, it's is a bit of edge of Black Sabbath with just hard rock, and I just felt wow, unbelievable. And I was at the Arias that year. I can't even remember what year it was, but they just won. They just won all the awards. So I actually got to meet them and whatever. And they had just played their set up on Aria, and this is when they were the original band, and the keyboard player had smashed up his keyboard, his Hammond on stage. And so, go on.
Miles Heskett was the drummer.
Yeah. So and so I was blown away by that album. Again, one of those albums where every song is a killer song.
Yeah.
Every song.
I've got the album that they did, like a demo album before that, because one of the guys I used to work with used to look after them when they come to town before that first album broke. And
yeah.
It was quite a bit of difference between the demoed album and the first album that came out. And it's still, the core of those songs are great. But,
so would you suggest it's a producer, that suggests to me a producer's in, you got a major label involved, and everything changes?
Yeah, it does, yeah, and it did.
But was the first album released, or was it just demos?
Well, I've got it on a CD, so...
okay.
But as I said, I don't know whether it was like here's a demo, promote the band, because the guy that I used to work with was working at Heaven, which was a big gig here in Adelaide.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing with Wolfmother, for me personally, I was just... Hearing that band was like a breath of fresh air, because Aussie pub rock came back. And I think they were the band to do it, to basically give recognition to all of those bands before them.
Well, I'd like to debate you on that, because my next one is Jet. And Jet were around at basically the same time. And I possibly pushed Jet more towards pub rock and Wolfmother more towards stadium rock. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about my personal taste.
Yeah.
I just heard what Wolfmother were doing, because they were taking what Sabbath, Zeppelin and Purple did and were redoing it. They weren't trying to trash it like every other band had done since the 90s. Hooray, like someone's in there and supporting it. But as I said, the guys that I used to work with, they all bagged Wolfmother. They hated them, and they were all the young, 90s heavy metal heads that, that whole tribe of people just did not like Wolfmother at all. I couldn't believe it. And I went, wow, one of my bands, So there's a whole split genre thing going on there in the 90s, which I still wrestled with back then and still wrestle with to this day. But that's funny, that underground thing that goes on over here in Australia, because it is so small. There's just little pockets of, my band's the best, my band's the best. Oh, well, okay, Look at Wolfmother.
Interestingly, with Wolfmother, and then we'll get on to Jet, they didn't go on to the heights that they should have gone on to. So you can still say they're big, and, they can do all the festivals around the world, and you could still do them now, I would suspect. But never went on to, there'd be a whole new generation of kids now don't even know who Wolfmother are. And it's because, well, obviously the band broke up, and he went off the rails a bit, and actually, go on.
4 or 5 years is probably the lifespan of an Australian band at that level.
Well, I don't know. I don't agree with that, because the band broke up virtually after the first album, and he took over. He was hard to deal with, and it was all about him. And I think he did 2 other albums. And he apparently wasn't chasing, he'd made a lot of money and wasn't chasing mega money. So to me, there's a few qualities which you need for that sustained popularity for a lifetime or for a long period of time. And yes, you need to keep your band together, no doubt about that. Yep. And you need to chase money, because more money's more money. That's what they want. And they've got to they chase ego, and he didn't seem to have it. I mean, the stories of him catching the buses around Sydney, even after the first album was mega around the world. Yep. He'd go via public transport. And if you have a look at where he went over the next, as you might say, up to 5 years, it was very much him not chasing all of that, and therefore you don't stay within, the confines of the system to stay up there. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I'm not disagreeing with that. I think that's, you're hitting it nail right on
But
the
see,
head.
I would have liked to have heard a lot more music because I liked it. So I would have liked to have seen another 6 albums, for example, but you're not seeing that. Then you get... yeah.
That first album was so strong, I don't think there was any catching it.
That's true.
There was nowhere to go. That's what you can say about Rush and Neil Peart. The thing with, and Jack Black says this about Rush, he said that most bands have emptied their bottle of rocket sauce after the first or second album. Rush had an unlimited supply. They just did not empty their bottle. They just
I don't
going.
know. I don't consider the first 2 albums very good at all for Rush. I mean, they're not very good albums at all. But once you get to
other 38, are better.
Yeah, well, that's right. Well, exactly. Once you get to Caress of Steel and 2112, that's to me when they came into their own. Whereas the first album is pretty trashy, I think. I don't like it.
But that's John Rutsey. It's not Neil.
I know. But he was still a good drummer. He was,
but he wanted to take the band in the direction of Bad Company. And they didn't want to do it.
And then the second album, Fly By Night, is the song. I'm not sure like many of the other songs. And then you get to Caress of Steel and 2112, and my God, that's when it really hit its own. That's for me. I really took a lot more notice then, and All the World's a Stage was a terrific live album. So...
Which are the songs from Fly By Night.
Yeah. So you're right, after that. But anyway, then you go by where do you go to if you had the big first album? I didn't think they had a big first album, but but Wolf Mother, I think were absolutely sensational. I would love to have seen another 6 albums from them, and just continued on. I just loved it. It was formulaic. There was nothing super new about the music. I just loved it. Jet, on the other hand, I thought...
They did 5 more albums.
Yeah, they did, but you never really heard of them, did you?
No. I mean, as I said, I haven't gone beyond.
Well, that's just the singer, because the rest of them were sacked, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, Andrew Stockdale.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, they came out in 2004. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, whereas Jet, to me, are the quintessential Australian pub rock band who then brought it to a stadium size or theatre, let's say theatre size, not stadium size, not arena, brought it to theatre size. And again, just a great band. I mean, and the drugs took over, and that was the end of that. And, it's never been the same since. And the second album, I thought was a really good album. I thought it was really good, but by that stage, they were pretty drugged out. And there was no coming back, but that was true. It was true, it was flowing around like no tomorrow, and after that album, that was it.
I mean, honestly, you've been around music long enough to know that that's part of it.
No, not at that level. Not at that level. There's a different level. You got some who are going to do some drugs, and there's some that are going to overdose on doing drugs all the time and booze and the whole lot, and have got no grip on reality.
What, like Led Zeppelin and Van Halen?
Rush. Well, once again, there is a different level, because there is a certain level where they can't even produce records because they're just so out of it. I mean, I have seen Joe Walsh come out on stage here so out of it that we only got half the set. But, he does talk about that a lot, and he considers himself very lucky to have gotten out of it.
We opened for the Party Boys here at the Old Line back in the 80s, and Joe Walsh was playing in that. Yeah. And I remember coming off after our set, walking into the band room and looking at Joe, and he couldn't string 2 words together. He could hardly stand up.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of looking at him going, how is he going to get on and do it? And he went on and they played the first song, which I think was a James Gang song.
Yeah.
And he was on fire for the whole gig.
Yeah.
The transition from what I saw in the band room to bang, first song on stage, it was amazing. I went, wow, this guy has that metal that a lot of artists do. They can just pull it together on stage.
Yeah, look, I mean, and he talks about it a lot, where he came out the other end, but a lot of them can't come out the other end. So, but that's to me.
I'm talking about.
But that's the Jet story, and I thought Jet were just fantastic, and it still sound good today.
Good song.
Yeah, good song. And then I go to my final, which I reckon you'll hate, is In Excess.
No, I mean, only reason I.
Never Tear Us Apart. I thought, well, what a song. Huge. Overproduced. That big sound. They couldn't get anything wrong at the time.
Yeah, that Kick album. I mean, we were touring the whole of Australia at that time, and every venue that we played in was hammering that. Every DJ was hammering that album. So I got a little bit worn out hearing it. I love In Excess.
It was the pushed out wide stereo. Did you get that with that bottom end on it, and it was just really wide and big, and had a beautiful subtle bottom end to it. And I just I thought at the time, my God, saw them play quite a few times, and just excellent on stage. Once again, not one of my favourite type of sounds, I suppose, because I like it a bit harder. But you couldn't help but like it, and what an Australian band! Now that's my that got me to 11, but
11,
it got me to 11. But that's because they always say turn it up to 11. But you could have mentioned another 10 or 20 in there, but. There's certain bands or certain songs that have that lasting effect for me. So that was my kind of take on, what do I like listening to over my history, although then I take it back to, I've said in, I suppose, other shows, what is my favourite band of all time is PFM, an Italian band, progressive rock band.
Yes.
Because they are progressive rock. They do have jazz. The drummer is absolutely unbelievable, but all the musicians in the band are unbelievable. And so I like that. But then I have another Welsh band called Man, who would be my second most favourite band, who are very, got that real Welsh sound. It is a English rhythm blues with an alternative feel to it. And I love Man and always have. I mean, but this was my Australian kind of take and what just came to mind. I really wanted to do what came to mind. If I have to think about it too hard, well then, I didn't want to bring it up. So that's my half hour on what I like. So what do you got, Rob? What's been happening in your world?
Well, I'm kind of exhausted just talking about Aussie rock there. I mean, in my own history of bands, I mean, Frank Zappa is a major one for me. Way before any of it, Frank Zappa and Jethro Tull. I got sort of weaned on those bands and then went out and, discovered local Aussie bands like, Chisel and, as I said, Skyhooks and Icehouse and AC/DC.
But were you a big marijuana smoker at the time with Frank Zappa?
No, I got into Zappa way before I spoke it. Yeah. But the thing with Zappa is that, and funny story, it came from, we used to have coffee hour at our place on Sunday nights after church, and my sister's friends used to come over and they'd play records and I'd get set in my room because it was bedtime for me, and they'd be playing that Zappa album, so I'd be listening to it and going, wow, that's really cool. And the humour element for me and the ability of, at that stage, it was Ainsley Dunbar playing drums. And
there's a name, yeah.
His drumming style on that album, those two, it was actually the live album Fillmore, the white album, the pencil on the front, and just another band from LA. And Billy the Mountain was sort of the big one that everyone loved. And I love the way that he took all the themes from advertising and all American pop culture and blended it into his music. And he had an orchestral compositional approach, which was completely left of centre for, against popular music. His musicians were incredibly talented, and his composing style was classical, because he was a classical musician, classically thinking, classically trained. And yeah, that was really big for me. And then Jethro Tull was another one who, they recorded Thick as a Brick in the same studio that Zeppelin did their first album. But, and Ian Anderson talks about that. But listening to Tull is the same thing. It's very arranged, very complex.
Yes, that's true. Right. Yeah, yep. Used to listen to that a lot. Never listened to Frank Zappa, but Jethro Tull, always thick as a brick. Well, at the time, it was,
I still got that album that I got for my 11th birthday.
It used to be Jethro Tull, Backman Turner Overdrive, Bad Company, and you'd play them to death.
See, I was also Sabbath, Paranoid, Master of Reality, and and I love the next, Technical Ecstasy and Sabbath.
Good record.
I got lost in that, and same with Zeppelin, all the way up Physical Graffiti, Presence. I'm not really a huge fan of it through the outdoor.
No, me either.
Trying to achieve that whole funk thing was coming in, and Purple, of course. I was just wrapped in Purple all the way up to pretty much when Richie left. I saw Purple, with Tommy Bolin. And that kind of turned me on to Tommy Bolin guitar playing in his original albums too, because he was a very different sound, very different style.
He was very different to Deep Purple.
As far as my, top 10 listening, I'd have to, I've got them all here, like Zeppelin, Purple, Sabbath, Zappa.
Yeah, but I was trying to keep it to Australian, mate. I need your Australian.
I know, yeah. Hey, I've just done a PhD on Australian, pub rock.
That's why. That's why I want your top 10 Australian.
Yeah, well, I've got my list here. Like, Love and Woman is the Penny Rockets. Like I Can Only Give You Everything, Levi Smith's Clefs, Life's Been Good to Me, Buffalo Drive, The Shape I'm In, Fraternity, If You Want Blood, AC/DC, Stay With Me, Headband, Dead Forever, Buffalo, Eleanor Rigby, Zoot. And I Need, Love You, Black Diamonds. Undecided, Masters Apprentices. Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs. The Angels. Take a Long Line,
All good.
And that's my top 10 list that I have here.
Yeah, there's some ones in there that most people wouldn't know who they were.
It's interesting because probably Penny Rockets, the band.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, well, if you look into them, they're one of the bands that changed everything for the sound of the 60s in Adelaide. And then Levi Smith's Clefs are probably one of the biggest bands in Australia to get.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, Barry McCaskill. Yeah, but, they were one of the biggest bands in Sydney in the 60s and 70s, the guys from Fraternity. But it was all pre AC/DC.
It was just that little bit too early for me. I didn't, I was just a little bit too early, so I didn't get to hear them all. I'd only really started from that early 70s onwards.
This is late 60s, and it's kind of where those bands, all those players came from, where Phil Rudd came from, and Bon Scott. And same with Headband, like Peter Head.
Never heard of them. Yeah,
they're a massive band here,
right.
And same thing. I was part of that group.
Yeah,
Barry Pascal's Levi Smith's Clefs.
Right.
We've got Fraternity, which is the precursor to Mickey Finn and AC/DC.
Right. Yeah.
And they were, for me, bands that I was hearing at home as well. Buffalo Drive, another one. They had a top 10 hit here in Adelaide.
Yeah.
Stars.
Wow.
Paradise. First album. I saw Stars all the time because I was
terrific album. Terrific.
The next suburb down the road from where I lived when I grew up.
Yeah.
Same with Zoot. The Zoot were another band that I saw a lot when I was a kid. And Eleanor Rigby was a massive song.
Yeah, that's true. A big song. Big one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Which for me was wonderful with the Soldiers because we did come together, and how heavy Eleanor Rigby was, but it's also the guitar playing, from Rick Springfield, and how heavy a guitar player he is. And we used that sort of concept when we played our version of Come Together.
Did he continue on as that heavy guitar player, or did he become quite, poppy? Because, we know he then became a pop star.
Yeah, but he was also a great actor,
No, I realise that. Did he come back did he therefore reduce that volume kind of level? Or no, he always still had it, but his songs were more pop orientated.
Yeah, but I saw the interview that Sammy Hagar drove over to his house in LA, and he still speaks in an Aussie accent, and Sammy Hagar revered a lot of his work, and so I mean Hagar, it's like pretty heavy dude as far as style of music and what his taste is. So Springfield, I think, lost it. It was really well structured, heavy music in a pop sense.
Yeah,
they drove that line very, very well. If he had to do that in LA, that was just the next level, which Springfield did.
Well, mate, you got to hand it to him. This guy created what a career, music and acting.
Absolutely, yeah.
No,
and as you said, move to the States, and if you can deal with it and the lifestyle and the pressure.
I keep saying Virgin Soldiers should have been in the UK or the States.
But we probably would have killed each other after 12 months.
Well, look, there's all of that goes with any band. It's the ones that can keep it together, and it's a bit of a crapshoot. But, you needed to be over there. There was no real possibility with that style of being big in Australia. Not a chance. It was overseas based.
We were before our time, but we were caught in a time where that whole style of music was dying in America. The bands, the Nirvanas and all of that 90s movement, that was all taking off, that Seattle sound thing. And I don't think the Soldiers really would have cut it through anywhere, but they would have had to go down south like AC/DC did.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't have stopped that behemoth, the Soundgardens and the Nirvanas. And,
that Detroit sound was just penetrating at the time.
Well, no, that was Seattle, but Detroit was still Ted Nugent.
Well, with Detroit, I thought Pearl Jam, Seattle, right? Now, who were the other bands? I know Ted Nugent from Detroit, Nirvana,
Soundgarden.
Yeah, absolutely. What a band! What a band.
They were changing the whole pace of music, and I don't know whether we would have. But it would have been interesting to go over and see what we could do. I mean, Chisel are another heavy band that never worked overseas because I don't think the Americans got it. So, how many Australian bands went over there and failed?
Well, we sent Jimmy over. We signed him to Geffen, and it was a big push for Jimmy, big push, and it just didn't work. I mean, Australian pub rock sound, and he still was an Australian pub rock sound as Jimmy Barnes. Doesn't work overseas. Virgin Soldiers weren't a pub rock band. You were rhythm and blues, hard rock edging on a bit of metal.
Playing in the pubs.
It was that real English, Nazareth, all that kind of stuff. Early Judas Priest. That was, to me, what you were. Anyway, put that aside. So now let's just finish off with, because we're nearly at an hour, let's finish off with Rob's Drum Sheds. Now, there's a lot happening there. Give us some numbers. Now, and this is a litmus test for a lot of bands, whether it applies to Rob's Drum Sheds or to a band or an artist. Persistence, perseverance. And suddenly Rob's Drum Shed is starting to happen. And we talked about this, 2 months ago, that we would set on a journey to see where we could get Rob's Drum Shed to. So give us a bit of an update on what's going on.
Well, the Moby Dick lesson, going back to Zeppelin, the Moby Dick lesson that I did, the advanced lesson that you have been pushing.
Yep.
23,000 views we're up to.
That's fantastic.
That's in It's not even 2 weeks.
Do you think that might be because of the name Moby Dick, so people associate it with Led Zeppelin? So, hey, let's have a listen.
Yeah, I think so. And plus, I've written out the chart and broken down the solo and just done grabs of it. I'm playing it not with my hands because Bonham played it with his hands on the second album, but I'm playing, a broken down version of it, which, 23,000 views. That's the best video view that I've had ever. The next one there is like 7,000 views, which is Danger in the Night, which is the Soldiers.
Yeah.
But I think we were talking this morning, what am I up to subscriber-wise? Or 210 or something? So that's gone up since last week by about another 50 or 60 subscribers. So they're real numbers. They're on the ground. I'm getting lots of likes. I'm getting some interaction from the people that are viewing it and being able to talk back with people. So. But once again, the stick control stuff is the most popular stuff. Well, besides the
now that you're becoming commercialised, right?
Commercialised.
Yeah, commercialised. My biggest, fault for your site is that banner. I'm going to put it out. I'm going to put it out there so everybody knows that banner. No, you need to update that banner.
It's being done as we speak.
Right. Look at that.
My IT guy, Pete, was here yesterday that we do RDS online services.
Yep.
He's a graphic artist. He's got a couple of logos and he's moulding a new
Fantastic.
one.
Fantastic.
And, we built that website from the ground up. So that's just something that's a hangover from...
Look, Rob, because we do so much at Laneway Music with social media and, we're learning every day, but, those banners... thumbnails are absolutely critical now to get people to click on it. Can't just be enough some picture of a guy on drums, and so the next level will be the thumbnails. And, that's just it's clickbait and people click on it because they look at the thumbnail. Then hopefully it ramifies what the thumbnail says it's about.
The thumbnail is me on the Sony kit for the Laneway gig, but the actual banner that's up there is 4 bars of The Thing by the Virgin Soldiers.
Well, no, then before we finish, because we're going to run out of time. So, okay, so we got that. We're going to come back to that every week, and we're looking at where that's getting to, right? Now we need to say, right, what's going on with it's no longer the Grouse, it's the Joltheads. The Grouse is a different band.
That's it.
Yeah.
The Joltheads.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quoting Shakespeare there, ladies and gentlemen.
All right.
If you want a bit of a background on that, that's what that's all about.
And the song title's changed too?
It has, yes.
Right, and that's out. I don't remember when it's out, but you must have it. Did we give you a date?
No, you haven't.
Haven't given you a date yet, so that means it hasn't been scheduled in. Okay, so it'll have to be in the next 4 weeks. So the Jolt Heads, is that correct?
Jolt Heads, yes.
Yeah, the Jolt Head or the Jolt Heads or Jolt Heads.
The Jolt Heads.
And the new track. What's the new track called?
Let me have a look. Because we've got the new artwork. You've got that, and you can put that up.
Yeah.
Bang. With Michael under his house, which is good. Another thing, as I said, all those bands that you're talking about, we do all those songs in the Grouse. Michael Hill is a great actor and professional actor and storyteller, and that's why I love playing in a band with him, because every song that he sings, especially we do a lot of Paul Kelly, he can get those stories across. The Jolt Heads is our version of that. Michael's song was first titled Unclean, but just having a look, because where are we? The Jolt Heads.
Well, look, is there another song ready to come out after this song, Rob?
There's another 3.
Another 3.
4.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, actually, it's just a matter of topping and tailing that. But, no one to blame but me.
Okay, so that's going to be the first track. Then the band already has another 2 or 3 tracks ready to roll.
Yeah. Well, there's one of mine called Nothing Wrong,
which
has been going down well at gigs. We've been playing that. Another couple of Michael's, Insidious Imperialists, which is a bit of a slight at the American culture taking over the Australian culture, which is, great little story. And there's still a couple more after that as well.
Well, but looking forward to
We've been playing them live, so playing them live is shaking them up to, a quick day in the studio, bang,
Yeah.
They'll be out.
Yeah. It makes a big difference, doesn't it? Pre-production,
It does.
bang, your live is virtually pre-production. All right, that's fantastic. Well, we'll run out of time today. I know we could
Virgin
keep...
Soldiers.
Virgin
Released tomorrow.
Oh, yes, another day. So now video and...
Another way.
Another way. And another way out tomorrow, video and audio.
That's it. Bang, bang.
And can't wait to see, big splash for that. Great song too, by the way. Just a great song.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's a great video.
Catchy song.
Yeah, it's a great video.
Yeah, it is. Everything blends together. So let's hope that all the Virgin Soldiers fans get behind it and get some. I mean, there is many more tracks to come out from Virgin Soldiers. So this is just another one, but there's heaps more. So we'll keep on with that. All right, Rob. I haven't even mentioned what's coming out on Laneway because we're releasing right through Christmas. So stay tuned. And
do it.
We'll see you next week, my friend.
But mention 2 more Laneway acts quickly. Someone you've got.
Yeah, who's that?
You.
Me. Well, we have Sorrel with Mama Said, and
right.
and we had oh God, it's always hard for me because there's so much happening that I can never remember the individual ones. But there was Sorrel and Deep South entering deep, which is myself playing drums on there, but Ken Steedman. And Anna Carell out of Spain. So that's out too. But, they're just they're a couple of many. There's just a lot of stuff coming out. Okay. Yeah. All right. We shall talk to you next week, Rob, and get ready for Christmas, eh?
Merry Christmas to all.
Yeah. So we're just going to continue on right through anyway, and we'll just keep talking. We talk a lot about nothing and a
little bit about something.
Yeah. See you, Rob. Bye.
See you, Vince.